Okay, so again, welcome to the 2024 Foster Summit. We're here to talk about the foster program and how it's going for everybody. We just did a quick intro on our new admissions and foster program supervisor, JJ, also known as Jack. We're calling her JJ just because we already have a Jack and that's confusing. So, so yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who just joined us and didn't get the information on how it's going to go, we're going to do 3 sections. The first one is what's going well, and the second one is what could be improved or what would you like to see changed, and then the third is big ideas. And what we're going to do is have JJ take notes. So as you guys are talking about things, she's going to be writing them down. If you want to contribute something, you can either raise your hand. So there's a little reactions button down on the bottom of your screen if you're on a laptop or computer. And there's a raise hand option in there. So find that and we'll call on you and you can say what you want to say. Or if you'd rather not talk, there is a chat window and JJ will be watching that. And we'll take little breaks to say the chat one's allowed to. So anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay. All right, so first section is what is going well. Just give some examples because I know sometimes it's hard to come up with things. People often say like, we like the mentors and, you know, the support we get. So ready, set, go.
Don't all jump in at once.
Juanita's got one.
I like the on-call process. We've run into situations and it can be scary. So really excited to have that support.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Juanita. That's great. Sherry, you got one?
Spreadsheet updates are great and a great support from mentors and Kat. They don't feel like they had to figure it out on their own.
Awesome. Yeah. So support spreadsheets. Sherry, I don't know if you're having microphone difficulties, but you can always chat your comment too. Looks like Renee's got one.
I like the scheduling link to self-schedule. That just seems to cut out a lot of back and forth on, we have these times available, which one works for you, blah, blah, blah. So I like, that works really well.
Awesome. Elaine, you have one?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the communications via email and daily being able to see who's adopted even. It makes us all more of a family, plus the chat is very good. And we got together at a cafe last weekend. I really liked that. So do it again.
Yeah, that's the what is it called? This foster parent meetups that Patty Reed organizes. I've heard they're quite fun.
People like the chat, and the self-serve supply station is nice as well.
Right, so all the supplies in the front lobby, you can just come in and grab what you need. Kim didn't know about the foster parent meetup. Kim, are you in the Google chat space? I think that's primarily where that's communicated. If you aren't in the chat space, you aren't seeing those. That's definitely something we can, well, we can get you in the chat space. That's the best. I think that's where the most communication about that goes. Or maybe we can hook you up with Patty.
I really like the pre-adoption process. It gives fosters a lot more control of the process. So just having that as an option is great.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole. Any more chats that we missed?
Let's see. Nicole appreciates that CAT includes mentors in the emails to mentees, so they are kept in the loop and can reach out to mentees for ongoing support.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And sisters responding to that.
Anything else anyone wants to add?
Mary has been amazing and will be missed.
Thanks, Kathleen. Well, I say we move on. I mean, it's always great to know what's going well, but I think primarily the purpose of this meeting is to find out how we can make it better. So happy to move on to the next section, which is what could use improvement. I will say we're going to go into big ideas later, so keep these to like smaller changes that could be made rather than like a big structural change. We'll ask about those later. So like adjustments to the system that's already in place. So yeah, what do you got? Susan?
I have a question about the Google Docs.
Sure.
Is that fall in your purview? The shared Google Docs, the foster manuals and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because sometimes I go in there and I find Google Docs from 2020 and they're outdated, and I don't know if it's because they're on my drive or because I go to what's shared with me, and I find just old outdated stuff, and I don't know if that's something that I can get rid of, or is that something that needs to be weeded out on your end?
Yeah, if it's shared with you, that would be on your drive. So anyone can share anything with you and it'll show up in that section of your drive. If you're
Mhm.
looking for current CAT documents, we have the shared folder that we give you that we keep updated. So happy to reshare that link with you, Susan, if we make a note
Yeah.
for Susan on that.
Yes, please.
Sure.
And on the now I don't remember if it's the foster adult manual or kitten manual, but one of them has a really good list of all the topics on one side, and you can click on it, it'll take you right there. And the other one does not have that same feature, and so I always have to scroll through all the pages to find something. So I don't know why there's a difference between the two.
You're talking about the table of contents. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about the mentor manual versus the foster manuals. Yes, there are two different table of contents. One, the mentor manual has one that's like an auto-populated one, so it will show up on the side. The kitten and the adult manual ones, it is linked, so you can go up to the table of contents and link down to sections, but it's not one that will show up on the side. I know we talked about potentially updating that to the auto-populate one, and that's maybe something we can look at doing this year. So because I know that one is a little bit more user-friendly.
Yeah, because it is kind of frustrating. I don't know that I've ever seen a thing called table of contents that I can click on to find something easily, because it's very frustrating to have to go through a 50-page manual to find something that's on page 49.
If I will tell you, until we can get that updated, just go to the first page or the second page. First page is like, this is the foster manual. Second page, there's links all in there. You just link to each section you want. It is linked, I promise.
Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you.
You can also do a search for a term, Susan.
When I've tried to do that, it just takes me to regular Google search all over the world. So I haven't found out how to search within the document.
It's Control F.
Yeah. That's what I was
Control
gonna say.
F. Thank
Just
you.
press Control F, and then it'll pull up a little window on the document, and then you can search that document.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I think Kathleen's next.
Yeah, this is a really specific comment, but the surgery drop off and pickup times just being like peak traffic. And I live in Cedar Mills, driving to the shelter in Sherwood's like 40-45 minutes. So any flexibility on timing to maybe ship those earlier or later outside of like peak traffic would be appreciated. I don't know how logistically possible that is, but it does, you know, really add up. It's about 3 hours of drive time on surgery between both trips, but
I know. It's not
Yeah.
ideal.
I don't know if I have a solution, but even like a 10 o'clock or like a 3 o'clock pickup would be better, but
I will tell you just off the bat, the times are the times because that's when it works for the hospital team. I
Yeah.
don't know that those will ever get adjusted, but you always have the option to drop off the night before if you want, or pick up the following day. Our default is just to drop off in the morning and pick up in the afternoon, but that is flexible. So all you have to do is ask if that isn't working for your schedule. We won't be able to do surgery pickups any earlier just because they have to recover and be awake and monitored by the hospital before they can go home. And then drop-offs are as early as the staff is there. So I think that's pretty set in stone. And I know it sucks the timing, but yeah, definitely if it doesn't work for you, ask for a drop-off the night before or a pickup the day after.
On the pickup business, is that something that she could put out earlier in the day on the Google Docs and say, can someone who's close to the shelter pick up and meet me halfway to hand off the kitten or cat?
Absolutely. You can do any amount of coordinating of pickups of cats or trip or
On the
medications
chat.
or supplies or whatever. You don't have to pick up your own foster kittens. You can send somebody else to pick them up, no problem.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Because I live close to the shelter and often have time on my hands, so it's something that I could meet someone, you know, halfway to drop off.
Awesome. Very nice of you, Susan. Crystal, what do you got?
My little suggestion or request, I guess, is if we could send out another like global invite to the Google chat. And it was all kind of a rush and whatnot when we first got it set up last year. But I've come across several of my mentees that for whatever reason they weren't fostering at that time or whatever, and so that they things have come up, and I was like, well, that's a great thing to, you know, put out on the Google chat, but they weren't fostering or like whatever the reason was, and so it might be good to send out a refresher for those that would want to join and get some benefit but didn't when we first set it up.
Yeah, absolutely. What that would have to be, just so you know, is we would send something out to the group that says, are you not currently in this foster chat space, and would you like to be? Please let us know, because we have to sign people up individually by invite on their email. Unfortunately, we can't just send like a link to join.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that makes it a little bit more challenging for some folks and there's also like these weird technical difficulties with chat spaces where even though I invite them, they might not necessarily get a notification, or they might try to open the link and it doesn't show up. So I did create a little informational thing in that guide to Google chat spaces on fixing that issue that you can point people to. Or they can reach out to us, but we can definitely easily put out another message to the group to say, if you want to join, we will get you in. Thanks.
Yeah,
Kristen.
that's what I was thinking. It's evolved a little bit and kind of what it's ended up being useful for and helpful for. And so I know that I've come across several people that wanted to join, and so it just might be an easy reminder and get them roped in if they are interested.
Yeah, the more the merrier. I'd love to have everybody in there.
Mary, I have a quick question. Have you guys looked at Slack at all? I know some of the other rescues are using Slack because you can have different channels. So you could have a trainers channel, you could have a foster channel, you could have adoption channel, all these different channels that you can join, and then you could have your specific questions related to that, so everyone doesn't have to see every question that may not be related to them or to their interests.
Yeah, good question. We'll write it down as a potential to look into.
Okay.
The reason we chose Google Chat Space, just so you know, is because that's what we use internally at CAT. And it's a free product. So it's just streamlined with we have like 1 million chat spaces out here. So it's just another chat space, and it sort of fits in with the format of how we do things, but we can absolutely look into some other.
So I know Nicole just said that it's expensive, but I think they have a free version and a paid version. I know, and other rescues are using it, and I'm pretty confident they wouldn't be paying a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Kim too. It'd be nice to have fluid supplies in a baby bag when possible, because it appears that kittens crash late at night when picking up supplies from the shelter, or the mentor wasn't really an option.
Yeah, so if you're trained to give sub-Q fluids, you should definitely have a supply on hand. If you're not trained, obviously we're not going to send everybody with fluids who's not trained to give them, because their mentor would have that if they were needed. But yeah, if you're trained in giving fluids, and you don't currently keep a supply at home, or get a bag when you pick up kittens, absolutely ask for that when you pick up, or let us know that you need a supply to keep at home, and we'll just keep it. Like, you just keep it current. When you run out, you get another bag. Okay, next I think is Amy.
So what I would like to see is a foster specific behavior form. Because I know, like, I'll sometimes get like the shelter behavior form coming with the fosters. And I would like to see something, even just like a Google form that could be filled out that could then be disseminated, as cats are moved from foster to foster. Just because the kind of information that we're looking for is not the same as what is needed for the shelter space when the BMOD teams come through. I want, things like, what are their triggers? What techniques have been used successfully? What have been used unsuccessfully with these cats? I think that would sort of smooth the transfer process along for a lot of these kitties. And that can just kind of like follow them through the process, especially with those spicy ones. We need to know, like, okay, you can do this, you can't do that, or we might have like a bite incident. We want to avoid those sorts of things. I think it would just be nice to have all that written down in one chunk that everybody could access kind of going forward with kitties.
So help me understand, with the paper form, is that not as useful because
it's more, the paper form is set up more to just like say, I use this technique and this is how the cat did. We did paint brushing and we did this, and this is the cat's response. Versus like in foster, you're in there multiple times a day, you're trying different things, working on different techniques, usually simultaneously, like trying to address different things, or at least that's how I do it. And I think it's better once you've kind of gotten a feel for the cat, to be able to kind of distill it down as to what worked, what didn't work for this cat, what kind of triggers, do we now know this cat has.
More like a summary.
Yeah, something along those lines, rather than like, today we did this, and the next 3 days we also did the same thing, and we got this level of progression. I think for me, it would be more useful getting a cat transferred to me, knowing what they've done so far and what's worked best with this cat, and sort of giving me a jumping off point going forward.
Without having to read through the whole thing.
Right. And knowing how a cat did, with, just getting cheek scratches and things like that. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's great. But, how did they do when someone closed the door next to them, or there was a dog barking outside, or, what other things have they been exposed to, and what do we need to work on kind of going forward?
Yeah.
More house, like more living in a home kinds of situations that we need to work on exposing them to. and working on responses. So.
And you would want that to be more, less of a, just like an open-ended, like, what are triggers and like you would want it to be more specific, like checkbox type things, or?
I mean, I think it could be a combination of checkbox and just open, like, response questions, like, you know, what have you learned about this cat from the time you got them until the time you're ready to transfer them over? You know, what is improved? What still needs work? You know, that have you noticed with this cat? Just, you know, what do we still need to do to get this cat adoptable? Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, this always gets me because I just never know. Is paper better because it's easier? You can have it in the room with you and you can easily pass it along, or is it better to have some
I mean, for
sort
me,
of electronic?
electronic is better, less likely to get
Okay.
lost, less likely
Get dirty.
Yeah, you know, I think it's, yeah.
And you could probably print it out too, so people who want paper can just print out the
Right.
electron, as long as it's printable. I have a really good example of something. I had a foster kittens that when I'm socializing them, I get them to eat out of my hand to get them to come over to my lap and all of that. So these kittens had only eaten out of my hand, wet food. And so when the new foster got them, she was commenting in the Google chat that she couldn't get them to eat. She had tried all these different foods and they just wouldn't eat. And she'd been putting wet food in a dish, which I would have thought they would have gobbled up, but they were so used to eating it out of my hand that they weren't eating it out of the dish. So that was going to take some time to, you know, get them to eat out of her hand and lower it into the dish. So her hand was in the dish, and then, you know, get them to eat that way. But if I could have, I didn't even think about writing that down, but that would be like one of the things that would be good to communicate from one foster to the next when they're transferring. You know, how do you feed them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they went a couple
Yeah, I
days
think just having
without
the
eating wet
open-ended stuff,
food.
because I was,
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I was in a situation where I was talking to Dana about Cora and she was asking what I do. I'm like, well, I can tell you kind of what I do, but what I do is very instinctive based on the cat and what they're and the feedback I'm getting from them. So I can't just give you like a checklist of things that you can do. But I mean, having an open-ended kind of question box that I could, you know, I could type in, you know, I do this and this is the response that I see that lets me know if I can go forward or if I need to take a step back, and, you know, things like that to communicate to the next foster, I think would probably be useful. But I can't just say use, you know, X technique, because I don't really have techniques per se for most of my cats.
It's just Amy magic. That's what I call it. Yeah. So the other piece of this is like the format of that. Like if it is electronic, trying to figure out the best, like, you know, maybe a spreadsheet is best, like a Google sheet that's shareable versus, I mean,
Please, no.
these fillable PDFs are just so limited in like the space, you know, that you can fit stuff in there.
Seems like everyone's saying a Google Sheet. That's
Google
shareable.
Sheets seems, yeah, because that's more of an open-ended format where you can add as much as you need. And I know Renee has an idea about this as well in regards not to behavior, but to replacing that medical record sheet we give you guys, the PDF, with the weight chart and everything. She has an idea about having that be a Google Sheet instead, where you can track weights, you know, forever, and it's not limited to that sheet. And you can make more notes, and there's more space for that kind of stuff. So this may even be something that could be combined with that idea. But I will let Renee fully explain that when she's ready. But thank you, Amy, for bringing that up. That is definitely something we can look at changing.
I'll bring mine up in the next section.
Okay, thanks, Renee. Let's see, I think Elaine is next.
Hi. So I had some onboarding comments. Last year I did not foster for a while because I hadn't had the socialization training, and I didn't realize that you could just do a video and get the socialization training. So it's probably all in the manual, but that did prevent me from fostering for a while until I talked to Mary and she said, well, just do a video. The other thing that I would like to see is like a checklist for the remote adoptions. The different steps in the process of what communications you want. So for instance, last time I didn't know that I was supposed to let you know when the cat got picked up. I wasn't aware that you had to fill out the name in the vet form until I'd seen a posting on that. So just little things, but that would be helpful. And then I've found all the videos that have been posted to be very helpful. But there is one on social media, and the recording starts 15 minutes before the actual presentation. So if there's any way to edit that down, I think that would turn a lot of people off from watching it.
Yeah. Okay, just to recap, because there's a lot going on there. Did you get everything, JJ, or did you miss anything?
I got the checklist for remote adoptions, and before that was the
Oh, the onboarding.
Onboarding.
Okay, so yeah, that piece of it. Boy, that's tough because we give people a lot of information when they start.
know.
And
I
try not to
know.
overwhelm them
And
with,
that's,
like,
it gets lost, yeah.
yeah, so I'm trying to like not be like, and also take this training, and also take this training. And you're right, it is in the manual. They're supposed to read the manual as a part of the training. But the other thing that we do, and we probably need to do it better, is we send out those trainings periodically. So we'll send out to the Google group. It's supposed to be quarterly, at least one of the specialized trainings, just to trigger people to go take those trainings and get more advanced in their fostering. So that's definitely something we can maybe think about increasing how often we promote those trainings. What were the other ones?
it was just a checklist, and then I don't remember the last part.
Okay. Sorry, Elaine, we may have missed.
So the remote adoption process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the checklist.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then was
Yeah.
there another one?
Sorry?
Was there another one besides the onboarding training and the remote checklist?
Yeah, remote checklist, and then the social media video. Just check
Oh,
out the
just
15 minutes.
Yeah, maybe JJ's better than me in video editing. I hope so, because that's not my my forte for sure. Okay, great. Thanks, Elaine. Let's see, Crystal, I don't know if you are re-raised or raised from before. Maybe her hand was raised from prior. Okay, Kat is next.
Yeah, it's like I didn't take it down, sorry.
Hey, so I'm newer as of just a few months ago, and so there have been a couple things that have come up around, like mostly logistics. And so my first foster, it was over the weekend, and so I didn't want to reach out to like the on-call because nothing was an emergency, but I just like had questions about like what kind of things should I put in this behavior, thing, as a lot's happening in the first couple days and things like that. And also my first foster ended up just struggling a lot more with eating than we expected, and so it would have been nice to have someone who was kind of like talking through ideas with me. And I think I just had the adult, unless I was assigned someone and didn't know it, I think I just had like the adult mentor like email in general as an option. And I did email that and didn't get a response, but it was in like reply to the foster paperwork. And so I think maybe people just ignore that if it's the foster paperwork because they assume we're talking about the like me sending the signature back or something. But I just ended up feeling like, oh, I wanted someone to hold my hand a little more, especially because the cat struggled more than we expected. So an assigned mentor would have been great. That's my recap.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that up. Just so everybody knows, Kat is signed up for the adult foster program only right now. So She doesn't have an assigned mentor. And the reason for that, just so you all know, is that we only have so many mentors and they only cover so many areas, right? And they can only take on so many mentees. And we decided when we were going to expand our adult cat foster program that we were going to open that up to more areas in places that aren't covered by mentors, and make it less restrictive to fostering so that we could get more people doing it. And we figured that, you know, generally adults are more stable. They're not needing as much critical care. They're going to be easier for someone to manage and foster than like a little 4-week-old kitten, right? That's not always the case, as Kat experienced. And yes, that cat foster email for the adult foster mentors is the primary contact for questions like that. And I apologize that got missed. That's not how it's supposed to go for sure. Yeah, I don't know the answer on how to fix that. I will say.
No, that's what I figured, that you just, it's a capacity thing, but it would have been helpful for my first one anyway.
Yeah, to have a little more guidance through the adult cat foster program. Okay, well, we can think about that and definitely put it on the list and see if there's any ways to address that. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Can we do like unofficial mentors where we just like swap contact information to like help? Like, you know, like, hi Kat, I'm Nicole. If you ever have a question, please text me. Or do you want it to be more official?
I mean, there just need to be a system in place that was easy to follow and, you know.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking the same thing as Nicole. And I was kind of holding it until a big one, but like I know I'm not as good with like shots. I mean, I'm getting there, but not as good. But like behavior stuff, I can mentor somebody. So having maybe a behavior mentorship program where if they need that, they can reach out to that person.
Yeah, behavior mentors. Yeah. Thanks, Juanita. Let's see, Andrea.
Good morning. Sorry, my video is being weird. So this is just like a comment more, I don't know, suggestion maybe, but the chat group, I don't know if we can have some sort of like etiquette sort of thing that we send out where it's like if you're replying to somebody to actually reply to the message. Because sometimes when there's a really active conversation, it's like I'm getting like notification, instead of like all the discussion on that topic being in that topic. So yeah, I don't know, like for me, it's like I get really frustrated when I'm getting like 20 notifications all at once. And it makes me want to just like turn the notifications off completely, but I still want to get notifications. So I don't know if that would like turn other people off from participating when it's yeah, when there's a conversation you're not involved in at all, but like you keep getting the notifications. And I think Emily had made a comment about like, is there a way to like have a digest at the end of the day rather than getting notifications? But if there's a way to like we could have a little training or something on, you know, if you're replying to somebody, actually reply to that person rather than the whole group. Yeah, that was my comment.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, that's, you know, being a new thing, we definitely have some kinks to work out for sure. And I'm sure there are ways to fix that. I don't know what they are off the top of my head besides training, but we'll look into it. Thank you. Susan. Susan, I did mute you because there was some noise in your background, so you might need to unmute yourself.
Have noise. I don't have noise, so I don't know why it was muted. Going back to the question about putting out a question to the group to get responses, we did that once before and we found that somebody would put out a question about their kitten and they'd get 14 responses, and they would be different responses and some of them were contradictory. And that's why we need some continuity in that respect.
So are you talking about the chat space?
Yeah. When it was Google, when it was the Google space, Google group thing that we used to do. Somebody would say, oh, my kitten's not eating. What should I do? And there'd be a whole bunch of different answers and you don't know which to go with. And some of them were contradictory. So I don't think that that kind of thing, putting out a question to a group, is a good way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. The chat space isn't supposed to be used for medical issues. You're supposed to go to your mentor.
Or even behavioral. It's just.
I think behavioral is okay to chat about. It's I will say, the design is mostly for you guys to socialize, share pictures, share stories. That's like the primary use of it, and coordinate trips to the shelter, pickups and stuff like that. But it is totally okay to get advice from other foster parents about like usually non-medical things. So behavior, I'm fine if you guys want to talk about behavior stuff. And yeah, you are going to get different answers because there isn't an exact answer on that kind of stuff, right? It is like a, everyone kind of has different methods and there isn't always an exact correct answer. So it's kind of a forum for people to chat. But I see what you're saying, and that can be frustrating. And if you're not sure what to do, I would definitely reach out to your mentor specifically if you want specific advice that's maybe not contradictory, or if you see a contradictory comment thing going on and you're concerned about it, definitely alert the foster department so we can come in and clarify if it needs to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's probably some chats that we missed because
I think so.
No?
More just people responding to the questions being asked.
Gotcha. Okay. Is everyone seeing that? So you can see if you pull up the chat window, you can see people responding to what the conversation is. Let's see here. We're talking about silencing notifications. Yeah, I know that's tough. There might be a way to like, I know you can do only at notifications. So you can be like, only if you're, say at Mary C, will I get a notification? But that's not very helpful because rarely does someone directly chat you in that group.
And you're included in the at all. So.
Right. So, yeah, but there could definitely be some etiquette. I know the chat space guide does tell you how to do replies versus new messages, but maybe that's just something we need to send out again. All right, anybody have anything else for what could be improved? Or do we want to move to big ideas? These are all really, really great things to bring up. I appreciate you all coming and saying them. Anita's got one.
Yeah, and this is more on an adoption counselor basis, because I've got that back end of it. The more foster personalities that can be uploaded, the better, because that is amazing information to provide to adopters, and I actually send those directly to the adopters, so they have that.
Yeah, does everyone know what Juanita's talking about? The personality profile, the thing we send you in your foster paperwork email, we ask you to fill out and send as a part of your Pet Finder marketing email. I know that gets missed a lot. Everyone does the bio and photos, but we might miss the personality profile. And it does ask some things and have you check some boxes that would be probably pretty helpful to an adopter. So we might need to do a reminder about making sure you send those as a part of the Pet Finder email.
Yeah, those are great because it also gives you cues of things to put in the bio. And the bio is supposed to be just a few sentences, not half a book. So that's why it's so helpful to the adoption counselors. It's just a little more information than you can squeeze into a bio.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to expand upon stuff. Just to clarify, that should be a part of your pet finder email, not go to the foster department, please. We get enough emails. When you email petfinder@catadoption.org, just attach that profile sheet along with, you put in the body of the email, you have your bio, you attach your photos, you attach your personality profile. It should just be part of that.
Hey, Mary, real quick.
Yeah.
So some of the, I know how to do it, but some of the fosters do their own updates and pictures and things like that. So maybe having it in where it's similar to uploading a picture. You just upload the document on the same place. So maybe letting them know where to do that.
Yeah, I think there's only like 2 or 3 people that do that, but I can let those people know. Yeah. It's usually
didn't know
staff
that.
or like high level ACs and stuff.
I didn't know that we could upload that.
You probably
I might have
can't,
opened a can.
Susan. Yeah.
Directly into Pet Finder.
Yeah, usually adoption counselors are the ones who are doing their own uploading, or staff. It's not the standard process. Nicole.
Okay, this is so unrelated and I apologize, but I see that Lowry is here and I just have to say, so as a crazy foster parent dropping off kittens, you just never know, like with anesthesia. So you're always a little anxious. And whenever you are there in the morning to hand off kittens for surgery, I just have to say, you are the most warm and friendly individual. And I always feel so good giving my kittens over to you. And I just watch you take them in and I'm like, okay, they're in good hands. So I just want to say, like, your persona, your energy is so welcoming. And so I just so appreciate everything you do.
We all do.
That's so sweet. We love Lowry. Does everyone know that Lowry also is a part of the behavior modification team with Nancy and Terry and helps with those behavior cats in foster?
Yeah, Lowry was part of my training team for BMOD.
Thank you, Lowry. You are awesome. Lisa.
I think I mentioned this last year, the 3 words that are used to describe the kittens. I think it would be best not to use descriptions about how they look because you can see them in the pictures and rather spend that extra word or that word on their personality. So instead of saying cute or pretty or, petite or something like that, actually use a word that describes their personality a little bit more, because people can see that in the pictures, what they look like, rather than, you could, and maybe try to use, I know on Pet Finder, you're always telling us to use like positive things, be realistic, but positive traits. So make sure, they don't say things like scared or timid, maybe cautious or something like that, but just be a little more careful of the words that they use for the kittens, because many of the kittens have very, very different personalities and people may not know what they're like just by coming and visiting them at the shelter, because they're all going to be a little off, but they do have very different personalities. So a kitten that's confident, definitely, use the word confident. Those kind of things, so that they're a little more specific to the kitten rather than generic.
Absolutely. I will say that the ones we do at the shelter through the admissions team, we don't know those cats very well at all usually. So those ones are often the ones that get like sweet, affectionate, friendly, just because like we've just met that cat or kitten and like we have to come up with something right then and there. But from a foster perspective, absolutely, like let's use personality things about their personality, not how they look. And there's a link in the marketing section of the foster manuals that says, has like a list of adjectives that you should and could use. And it definitely says not to use shy or scared. we do use bashful on occasion as a
Right,
way
which
to
is-
indicate. Yeah.
So it's kind of like cautious, right? Or,
Yeah, exactly. So there's ways of saying what you need to say without like making it sound terrible. I
Yep,
guess.
yep.
So I appreciate you bringing that up. Maybe that's something where we need to resend out that that link to that to the bio writing style guide is what it's called.
And maybe there could be someone that just oversees those words and says, oh, do you, before you submit them, they just say that's good. They just look at it and say, oh, do you want to change this word to this instead to make it sound a little sweeter or whatever.
Yeah, and that would be the pet finder volunteers. So that's something we can train them on for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to move on big ideas? Sounds like we are. If you come up with anything like that's not a big idea during the big idea section, it's okay to still say it. We'll still accept it. And also, if you come up with stuff later, we still have that Google form where you can submit. You can submit things that way too. If you're like, oh man, I forgot to say this, that's still active. So don't worry. Renee.
So my big idea was creating a Google Sheet for each individual foster to track weights, gain or loss, what's your appetite like, what are you eating exactly, what behaviors are you having, what does your bowel movement look like, what medications are you on, and it's just a standardized form that every foster would have their own private Google Sheet that they can see and write on, and then that the foster department could see and also the hospital could see. So if you have vet appointments and you can't fit everything on your sheet, the hospital would have access to look at your Google Sheet on that particular foster. And then when those fosters are gone, you just delete everything off of your sheet and start anew with the same account. And then it's just more standardized for everybody. Everybody's doing the same thing versus, the thousands of things that we're all doing right now. Just a thought.
Yeah, and Renee and I did talk about this yesterday, and I know we're still working out some of the kinks of what it might look like, but the idea would be that it would replace the medical record sheet. So instead of having that sheet that's like checkbox for vaccine at 4 weeks, vaccine at 6 weeks, and checkbox for mom's vaccine, and that little limited space where you put in your weights, that way we would just get rid of that. And you would just use the Google Sheet to track that stuff.
And you can have your Google Sheet down at the bottom. It's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. You can create different tabs. So if you have a mom would have a tab, kitten A would have a tab, kitten B would have a tab. So everything's right there, all in one sheet, all accessible to just you. Like I wouldn't be able to see Andrea's medical sheet, her Google Sheet. That's just Andrea's and the foster and hospitals. Like each foster would have their own that they can write on and make notes and make more detailed notes. I know Dr. Brown and Dr. Bell have said to me multiple times, more information is better than not enough information. And the goldenrod sheets, that it wouldn't replace those. The hospital's still going to want that. But you could write on there for more details, see my Google Sheet, if you just don't have enough space to fill it, what exactly is happening with your kitten or your kittens.
Yeah. And then as far as like permanent documentation, what we would have you do is when that foster group is complete, you would have to, or we, or one of us, either, I don't know who it would be, if it would be foster department or the foster, would need to create like a file out of that could get uploaded to their records. So it would be like, you send it to a PDF or something.
You can make it into a PDF very easily on Google. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, send a PDF and then it would be permanent record for them, which would be a lot more information than we're currently saving for them. So, more is better. But I wanted to see if people had thoughts about that and any issues that might come up with that. if people want it, if people don't care, like before, because it is a big project to implement something like that. So I want to make sure that there's enough people interested in making that change before we put a lot of time into it.
Love it.
Mary, my hand is because of that. I wanted to just kind of add to it. I think I obviously don't have the same relationship to the hospital that Renee does, and I often end up wanting to tell them more, and maybe they're doing medical filtering, you know, what's actually important to the medical care of this cat. And so I guess for the Google form, I would want a way to really kind of bring the hospital in on that, and either like maybe on the goldenrod sheet we say, you know, see the Google Doc, because it would be frustrating for me to put stuff in there and then the hospital's really busy, you know, they're processing a lot of cats or whatever, and they don't end up looking at it. And then on the reverse end, maybe some training for us, for some of us, about what the hospital would want to actually know versus not know, so that we're not wasting each other's time, I guess, in that of saying, look at the Google Doc, and then the hospital looks at it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is like, we don't need any of this or whatever. So maybe just some communication on that, and a way to ensure that this would actually, that part would actually help the hospital versus not.
Yeah, that is a good point, because we do need the hospital's buy-in on this. If they're like, I don't have time to pull up a Google sheet and look at it, there's no point. And you guys waste spending all that effort, right? And that may be a barrier to this becoming a reality. Or they may say that would be great and we would love that. So good point. Does anyone, I want to see if anyone who has their hand raised is about this topic or a new one.
Mine's about this one.
Okay.
I love this. I'm trying to think from an accessibility point. I know not everyone is computer savvy and all of that, but oh my God, I look awful. Sorry, I have the flu, so I'm turning my camera off. I am wondering, could this be an option when you see that your foster is starting to become ill versus a day-to-day? And then, you know, I think we all track weight, so then we could upload, you know, historically for the hospital. But I'm wondering, can this really be utilized for more of like, you know, when things start to turn, and then, you know, it's utilized by the hospital and by the foster department. Because I know myself, and uploading things every day may not just be something that happens.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I thought about too, is not everyone's going to want to do this. Some people just write weights on a piece of paper, and we have to be able to let them continue doing that and not make this like a ton of work for people who don't want to do that. So it would be something, it would have to be optional. Like, here's your assigned Google sheet. We suggest you use it this way if you're going to use it. And then if people use it, they use it. And some of you will want to, and some of you won't. And I think that'll just have to be the way it is. So I think maybe we do keep we might need to keep the medical record sheet, the one where you track vaccines and medications and weights, in place for people who don't want to do this Google sheet thing. Which is hard to have two systems, just so you know.
Well, I definitely think it should be an all or nothing. Like, I don't want to create more work for anybody unnecessarily, because if only half of us are using it, then it's just not worth it. Just continue doing what we're doing, and we'll do the best that we can on relaying what information the hospital may need on what they want to do. It was more looking just for like an easy universal, and I realize that not everybody's gonna not everybody uses technology, and it might be scary to try and learn it, and I'm one of those people. But I will say Google Sheets is pretty easy to learn and navigate through. And if it's already set up for you, you just have to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's true. The alternative would be, if we didn't decide to do this universally, is like what Renee does, which is Renee already does this and just shares it ahead of time before a vet appointment. So, you know, if you had a Google sheet you were using, you could just share it with the foster department before you brought your kittens in for a vet appointment, and we can share it with the doctor. Or, you know, if there's just a few people who want to do it that way, that might be a better way to go about it. Is we could provide you with the structure and you could decide to use it and share it as you please.
Yeah, I think I think we can find like common ground, because I think the idea is really good. I'm just, you know, I guess it would be helpful. I forgot who just made the comment of knowing what the hospital wants before you come in for an appointment. Because when I show up, I just like, you know, vomit every information and they're just standing there like, please stop talking. So, you know, if we could structure it where I know what they want versus they don't need every little detail of my life. So if we could do that in some type of universal system, you know, just for better communication with the medical team, I think that would be really helpful from a foster, you know, standpoint.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicole.
And I just wanted to say, since I get like bottle babies and like little neonates, sometimes it's important for, like, I get follow-up questions from the foster department, like, hey, how are they doing? And that might be helpful to track how those little ones are doing, to see how their weights are going, if they're having pooping trouble, like what's the updates, because I'm constantly doing check-ins with my babies. And so it would be easy for me to take pictures and post pictures of like, this is what their poops look like, this is how they're changing, this is what we're, just because I tend to get a lot of follow-up questions because of the type of babies I get, or if they come underweight, or if they're still sick, or their URIs, or whatever's happening. So maybe certain foster areas have the Google Sheet, because they are going to get a lot of follow-up questions, or the hospitals needs to know what's happening with those kittens.
Yeah. I think someone mentioned like when they become, you know, close monitoring groups, you know, because some groups just don't even need any of this, right? They just like sail through. I know none of you get those. But once they do start having issues, I agree that that might be where we institute the more detailed notes.
What's
Anything
it
else
like
on?
to have a foster that just sails through?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I wouldn't know either. Anyone else have anything on that topic specifically?
Yeah, I had a couple of points. I'm kind of the same deal that I have concerns about accessibility and whether it's creating excess work and how important it is. I do track on paper the I am not wanting to handle my phone a whole bunch, and especially when we've got mamas with behavioral issues where I'm not necessarily even able to spend tons of time in the room safely. So in that kind of situation, it is quickly jotting on paper and then uploading it into my phone after the fact. So, I mean, like the idea in principle, but in practice, especially for a wide sweeping, I think that maybe in these situations to where when there is illness or there is somebody who we're needing to track closer, I know as when I'm helping out with my mentees, sometimes they've got issues going on, and so that might be good to be able to just like pop in and not have to wait for a text if the mentors have access to it. But I just have concerns of it being like wide sweeping, and of when we do have ones that are kind of doing okay, or with more experienced fosters that kind of got things under control. I'm not, I think that maybe in those situations to where we are needing to monitor more closely, then it could be useful. But yeah, I don't know what that looks like. And you know, if we've got people having trouble learning how to reply to a thread in Google Chat, that dealing with this kind of thing, that might be tricky. And then if only a few people are using it, are the hospital going to just assume that it's probably not there because it's, so I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to waste people's time. And I also know, I mean, the whole reason why we couldn't do away with the goldenrod sheets is they are busy, whether it's appointments or for surgeries, and so they kind of need that at a glance. Are they then having to leave to go, pull up the computer? You guys have tablets there? I don't know. And so yeah, I just, is it useful to them? Like everybody said, is it useful to them?
Yeah.
And how do we deal with accessibility and kind of like more mass, whether I do sometimes have kittens that do just fine and don't need a ton of tracking. I also have, hot messes that do need a lot of vet appointments, but I do have plenty that they kind of, for the most part, sail through and they don't see them again until, they are at surgery, and kind of that's it. And so I don't know what that looks like. And so of how we could make that work. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my comments on that.
I appreciate your input, Crystal. And I think we have that kind of in the notes I think we have that covered now. We have pretty good notes on like all the things that need to be addressed before we would consider implementing this. But thank you for reiterating that. I appreciate it. All right, we ready to move on? Juanita's got something.
I always struggle finding the unmute button. I want to kind of readdress, and I think we need to take another poll for fosters who, and this was brought up at last week's meeting in person, fosters who are interested in adoption counseling and getting them signed up and kind of started. And it was brought up yesterday or during that time, maybe even just having the ability to have fosters sit in on the adoption sessions so they can not so much do the sessions themselves, but experience what those are like. If they want to put in anything that they want in during those sessions, awesome. Or allowing the foster to know who their kitten or cat is assigned to, so they can have that opportunity. I know myself, I will research the heck out of the cat and reach out to that foster and say, hey, give me the goods, the bads, the uglies, the happies, the sads, everything about this cat. So then I come in with my arsenal ready to go. But I think we need more communication and finding something that works if the foster's interested in being part of the adoption session.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. You're right. There's a lack of communication between foster parents and the adoption counselors. Thank you, Juanita.
Of course, I get the joy of being both. So, and just talking as an adoption counselor, please, your adoption counselors want to know. So and that's why I feel like we need to know who the adoption counselor is, so you could have that talk. And maybe even giving fosters access to Acuity, but I know that could be challenging too.
Yeah, that might be too much. Sorry.
No, and I agree. And maybe I know even for the essays, when they're helping set up the adoption sessions, maybe part of the I've been brainstorming this and thinking, hey, your kitten is assigned to Juanita. This adoption session is at 10 a.m. On Saturday. Maybe being an email like that with the adoption counselor's email. Maybe it could be just as simple as that, but I know the essays have, especially during kitten season, it's just pure chaos for
Yeah,
all.
you might not know this, Juanita, because you don't get these emails because you do your own AC sessions, but we do send
That's true.
the adoption counseling meeting to foster parents as soon as it gets scheduled. So that would be a pretty easy thing to add hopefully
'cause
easy thing to
with
add the AC on there.
Yeah, and with the AC sessions, like my sessions are set in stone. I get the exact same times, the exact same days, and all of the virtual adoption counselors get the same sessions the same days. So it is a set schedule.
Right. I know there are some subbing things and things that happen, but yeah, if we were going off the schedule, yeah, we could. And then if there were updates, that person could update us. But that seems like an easy thing to do, just to add the AC onto that email. So we'll put it in the notes as something to look at. I know not all the foster parents are going to be available to want to go to those AC sessions, and nor maybe they just don't want to, and that's fine too. It would just have to be an optional thing for people if they were interested. All right, so there's a chat from Nicole. Oh, I had a lot of issues with diarrhea, and was that a general problem in 2023? I think it's always a problem. I've never had a year it wasn't a problem. I don't know if 2023 was any worse than any other year. Does anyone else have feelings on that? Did they feel like it was worse last year?
I had more last year.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe I know there was a lot of Giardia at the shelter, so maybe that was a Giardia year. We had a lot of Panleuk last year. Yep. You're not supposed to say the P word, Renee. Or the R word. You don't say the P word or the R word. Y'all know what the R word is? We can write it down. We can't say it. Okay. Good ideas. Anything else? I don't want to waste too much of your Saturday, but happy to take maybe one more if someone has something. Sounds like we might be good. Well, this is a lot to work with, and so you all know what happens with this, we take this to our staff meeting on March 13th, and we have a whole list of stuff that we already go through with the staff, and then we add in the new foster parent comments and suggestions, and we discuss those as a team, and we see what's realistic to implement, and then we assign action items, and they're usually done by the end of the year. So sort of timeline wise, I would keep that in mind, is that we try to get to the ones, we try to get to them as soon as we can. That's the idea, is to it's an action item, it's due in the next 4 weeks or something like that. But, stuff comes up and things get delayed. So usually I just say we'll be looking at working on some of these things in the next year. We can't do everything, and I'm sorry that we can't do everything. But, we can do some of these things, and we will. All right, thank you everyone for coming. Anything you want to say bye? Anyone want to say bye?
It was good to meet all of you, and there's some wonderful ideas you guys are coming up with.
Bye, welcome, Ginger.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Renee, where's Juju?
He's on the floor.
Oh,
Show us your cats.
where's Juju? He's precious.
Did you see earlier Yvette when he
just-
had a freak out?
He
He
ran away.
had like a
from
chaos goblin on Renee. It
He
was
just
great.
ran off. He's got lots of zoomies this morning.
Oh, he's gotten so big so quick. He is adorable.
Yeah.
And like total travel kitty though. He's doing so good in the car.
Yeah, he came to the shelter yesterday for a hot second and got to meet some people. So, yeah.
Wow.
He didn't like the fact that I just stood around and talked though. He let me know that it was time to go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's not loved at all.
No.
So
Nelly-
neglected, obviously.
Nelly says hi too. Says,
Oh,
oh, and look,
Aw.
first got the belly.
Oh my goodness.
That's so good to see a belly on her.
Oh my God. I've been trying so hard. Now she's running.
Yeah.
I can't win. She's 4 months now and she's chaos and hell demon, and I love her for it.
Yep, that's Juju. 4 months of a hell demon. I think I'm gonna call it that from now on. Yeah,
He's toddler.
yeah.
Mhm.
I will say, much to my surprise, my husband is all about Juju.
Oh.
Like he's not been a fan of like, not that he's not a fan, but he's like fostering really and
Indifferent,
pets
yeah.
really. Yeah, he's literally has said in the past pets are useless expenses. So the fact that he's all in on Juju just, yeah, I'm like, I knew I'd get one. It only took 6 years, but I knew I'd get him to love one.
Oh, mission accomplished. Check.
Yep, check.
Well,
It
I'm
was
loving
nice
all his
seeing
whisker
you all.
pictures. They're amazing.
Yeah.
I know those
Bye, guys.
whiskers. The like eyebrow ones are huge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. He's
It's so
ridiculous.
Wild. He is.
All
I
right.
guess I should stop recording now that we're not doing anything.
It's cat
Probably
related,
the
it's
meeting, huh?
fine.